and your rear delts have some functionality to them. But let's be honest, it just really makes the back look complete. And that's one of the main reasons we want to hit our rear delts. Facepulls are a great way to work your rear delts. So in this video, what I want to go through are some of the ways I see people doing facepulls that make it less effective and easy fixes for them. First one, swinging. We've talked about this often. If you're just moving the weight by generating momentum, that muscle isn't doing the work. And sometimes there's a lot of lower back involvement. If we're trying to hit the rear delts, I think if you're thinking effective training, you want to make sure the muscle you're trying to work does the most work possible. So funny enough, even recently in one of the comments on one of my other videos talking about hack squat, where we were talking about, you should try and keep your foot flat. Someone had rightfully commented, sometimes you can go on your toes. But I don't ever want to think something is wrong or bad, but you just have to understand why you're doing it. And you want to know if you're breaking a rule, why you're breaking the rule. And if you're just swinging just to swing from your first set or your first rep, because you're thinking, well, I just got to move as much weight as possible, that's not what's going to lead to results. So sometimes there might be a place in your training, depending on what you're training for, where you might want to generate some momentum to finish off a set. But if you're thinking effective training, how to make sure the muscle is doing the most work possible, the more you can take up momentum and just let the muscle work, the more effective your training is going to be. So I would always say, think about that core posture. Don't let your body move and focus on just making sure you feel the rear delts doing the work. You can do it standing. The benefit of you doing this standing is that you're going to be using more core, so you can indirectly work your core at the same time. Or you can do it seated. The benefit of you doing seated, you don't have to think of as much stability, so you can put more focus on just moving more weight. So it really just depends what your goals, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to do two birds with one stone or not? The next one, too much bicep involvement. So whenever you're working your bicep, you're going to look for some elbow flexion. And one of the reasons this would happen when you're doing your facepulls is two reasons. One, again, you're just trying to move weight. So you're just grabbing it and pulling it, and you're asking your biceps to do the work. Or it could actually be the length of the rope you're using. If you're using a really small rope, you don't really have enough space to open up, so your hands are naturally going to come closer. So if you're now combining this with the weight being too heavy, you're just going to end up pulling the weight, asking your biceps to do more of the work than your actual rear delt. What I always like to do, if available, and no one else is using it, just use two ropes. So that way you're able to open up and you're not able to put your arm in that elbow flexion, which means you should be using less bicep. And then you can have a nice span and focus on just pulling back through the rear delts. I have my own piece of gym equipment I would use just for this. But if you don't have anything like this, again, you can always just use two ropes just so you can open up wide and not cause that elbow flexion and use less biceps. And again, don't get weight hungry. Focus on making sure whatever weight you're moving, you can feel the rear delts doing the work. The other one, too much trap involvement. So they're all part of your posterior muscles, but if you're going into the workout and you're just thinking, pull everything back, a lot of times when people train, they're just thinking, how do I get from point A to point B? And not what muscles they're actually using to get there. Weight's too heavy, or you're just thinking, I just got to move this thing. You end up using your traps, because your traps are very powerful, very dominant, way more powerful and dominant than your rear delts. And the weight will move, but you're not actually using your rear delts. So don't think about pulling back through the scapula. What I always like to tell my clients, if you, again, have that nice wide grip, you are focusing on what are you doing with your elbows. Think wide and back, pulling through the elbows, feeling your rear delts. Even with nothing in my hands, I could feel my rear delts activating because I'm not squeezing back. I'm just pulling back through that elbow, and then through the elbow, stretch forward, through the elbow, think wide and back, trying to take your traps out of it as much as you can. You're going to do some trap involvement, but you're trying to minimize how much focus that you're putting on your traps. So again, make sure those rear delts are doing as much work as possible. So if you do this and you're still having problems, there's two things I would always suggest. One, doing pause sets. Sometimes, especially because we don't normally use our rear delts, it's harder for us to activate. But if you can pull back, hold, and just keep thinking, squeeze the muscle. Okay, I feel it now. Stretch forward, pause, pull back, pause. That can help make sure you feel those muscles activate. Or for me personally, what I like to do is I like to just use the cable and I'll go one arm at a time doing rear delt flies. Especially for me, just because of how symmetrical my arms are, they're not very symmetrical. So if I did certain movements, I always have to kind of shift what one side is for the other, just to make sure I can kind of feel it. I don't really want to feel like thinking that much. But if I can just grab a cable, keep my shoulders down, and go wide, I can isolate that rear delt just doing a unilateral movement. And I know, okay, for this side, I feel my rear delts doing the work. If you want more on how I do my rear delts, just let me know in the comments below and I can do a video on that. So in closing, facepulls are a great workout to add to your back day. But as always, we want to make sure we're doing it as effective as possible so we're getting the best results and decreasing the chances of any injuries. Hopefully you got some good fitness tips on how to train your rear delts. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.